Morning, everyone. How many of you are happy with the takeoffs you get on your paper when you sit down and begin your shift? You get a good smooth takeoff every time, sometimes. Depends. Not something right I have to think forward, maybe. That's really what I want to talk about this morning, is just going through certain steps, if you will, to getting a good takeoff every time we set that paper down. And you're going to see these slides in here, it's going to be all yellow there. But what I want you to keep in mind is, it doesn't matter what brand of equipment it is, what I'm going to go through here this morning works. So you'll have to have the faith in what I'm saying, and if you're like me, you like to try things and improve yourself, I encourage you. After this, if there's something to pick up on all of this, or maybe it's review for you, but go for checking this out. So, big thing here, what are we trying to achieve? So, getting a smooth transition, again, or takeoff from the transverse joint. So, I've got the paper out there, I'm sitting down either on existing material or existing mat, or maybe I'm starting a whole new pole, a new mat, and want to get a good takeoff. So a few things I want to try to accomplish with that. One is, I want a segregated mix there. We've got a compactor to roll it also after we get going. So I don't want, like I say, segregation. When I even think of the rolling part, I want to have a good temperature in that mix. And what's typically the coldest mix that we get all day? Probably those first few loads coming out of the job site. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, what needs to be done. So when I start thinking about a transverse joint, again, I'm going to sit down and take off. I want it to be cut back, if you will, to a level. So if I'm taking off from where I left off yesterday, I don't want to take off where that old mat is dropping off, because maybe that's where I cut off the head material, or you want to mix on the paper, the hot run out, move the screen to it kind of went down. So I want to cut back to where I'm going to have a good level takeoff in that sense. I want to have it clean and dry, right? So I'm going to cut it back. I'm going to mill the edge maybe a little bit to get it good and clean. I want to have starter boards. So I'm going to set the screen down either on boards. When I say boards, it could be steel with different thicknesses. The screen is free floating, so to take off initially it needs to be supported by something. So put boards under there, or steel, anything that's going to support that screen again before we go through this. Or a pad. So I build a pad with that on the pile of air, shovel it out, break it out, and set the screen down on it, and give myself a good takeoff. Want to make sure I got good hot mix there, so good practice, because I always like to see, especially, the coldest mix out of the plant, probably the first mix that comes into the silo or into the truck, depending on how it's getting loaded. So a lot of times I'll think about doing, the third or fourth truck, might be the first truck that I dump into the paper transfer sheet. However, I'm getting that mix into the hot. And then I'm maintaining a constant head of material. So that's the amount of mix in the screen, in the auger chamber, when we take off and all the paper. So cutting the joint back to level here, it's really all about, like I say, going back, cutting back that taper, if you will, from the previous day's paper. So you know that's coming up at some point. There's different ways. People put craft paper, it's like wax paper, or something, or 2x4 or something down at the end of the previous day, so when I come back on day 2, it's easy to peel up that little taper part of the finish out the day before. You get a good square edge. So you want a good vertical face there. That's what you see these guys do in the picture. Is that a picture on the left? Does that look like a good place to take off? That helped at a bit of a punch cut there, right? It's not bad. I mean, I've seen a lot worse. I'm sure you have too. But you got that punch cut with a grinder or mill. cut in there, it's about yay thick, right? 3 to 4 inches maybe in that picture. But we're only a few inches down the road. Now we're at 2 inches, which is what we wanted here. But what are we going to get when we get on there with rollers and all that? It's going to compact down a little more maybe, right? But we want it nice and smooth, so maybe we just cross roll it and that roller bridges over. Maybe we don't get really good density right there. So again, just important to get good square cut there. That's what the guy on the right side's doing. He's just measuring the thickness because he's going to decide, hey, if that's 2 inches thick, I need ½ inch of boards to set the screen on. And I take off, and now it's going to be a 1/4 inch per inch, more or less, and that'll be flush. That is just. It's always doing there. Again, it's got to be good, clean and dry, right? So here, we're sweeping, getting all the debris out of that joint area, and then we're going to air. It's got air down there, it's just blowing compressed air to get all the dust and debris out of there, and then we're going to tack to get a tack coat on that face, so that we get a good bond with the new mix with the existing mix on there. So that's just going to give us a good bond, and we'll seal it up a little bit. And then I like to go with the tack, right? So this isn't a class tack course or a tack coat, but you want that tack to break, right? Most of the time now we're using emulsions, right? Tack emulsions, so it's a mixture of cement and water. The water evaporates out, we've got the residual, that's the asphalt cement that's left, that's the tack. So you don't want to take off until it hasn't broke yet, or that water hasn't evaporated out, so just like the whole tack surface of the road, you don't wait for it to break, right? So I like the high-tech foam test, right? I stick my foam on there, and I get asphalt on it, and it's not quite ready, right? Once that water's evaporated out, I get the foam on there, it shouldn't be sticking to my foam because it's bonded to the road now. So, well, high-tech test to make sure. Or the other thing is just to look at it, right? If it's brown, it's going to go black. It's ready to tack is broken. It's ready to take off. So, getting it prepped, that's the big thing there. Starting with a clean canvas. My good friend Ben, sitting right back here in the 3rd or 4th row, supplying these pictures. You can explain it better than I can. I thought this was a really neat idea, putting some canvas down. Sometimes we get on jobs where we want to really clean takeoff. We got to pick up and clean up a little bit of mix there. I just thought this was a really neat idea. Putting the canvas down inside the screen now and taking off. Peeling the canvas back, and it makes it nice and neat and clean, especially if we're doing city streets and stuff like that. So now we'll get to the takeoff. We've got the transverse joint, we're prepped, good to go. I'm going to go through some steps here. It's kind of what we call our paving by the numbers. And I've got a few of these cards if anybody wants one later. Come and see me. But I'm going to go through these steps of setting that screen down, filling it up with the mix, and getting a good level takeoff on that joint. So we've got the joint prepared. Now we've got to have some boards to go at take off. Again, boards, different thicknesses. I want to make sure I've got boards that are 3 to 4 feet long, because I want to go all the way from the nose of the screen out behind that trailing edge. Whatever I set that screen on, the boards or the asphalt pad, I want it to support the full length or depth, if you will, of that screen, not just a little short piece of it. So he's cutting it back, using a saw there. Like I say, you don't always need a saw at the end of the previous shelf. You can throw a board down and put some paper down or something like that. There's different ways of getting a good edge. A lot of times, on airport work, it's specified we need a saw to get a good. So I'm setting down to take off. goal for a smooth surface. So we don't want what we call weed ads. Does anybody know what weed ads are? So that's when you're driving along like this, right? You go from the last day's paving, you do that, and the car hits a little bump, the kids in the back go, weed ad. They love it, right? Yeah. It's like a little roller coaster. And top of them go, and you grind my teeth, thinking something like that takeoff. Right? Went off high, or dipped and went off low. So that's really what these steps again are to go through, follow them to get that good smooth transition. Real quick, I do a little background. The paver, you got the tractor, big yellow iron on this picture, and then you've got the screed that's being towed and pulled behind it. The tractor is receiving the mix from the trucks, from the transfer machine, getting the mix into the hopper. And then that screed is connected on the left and right side, and we see the green circle. That's your tow point connection. And that screed is free flowing. So when we're paving, what's holding that screed up? The mat mix, right? So it's free floating. So what's going to happen when that mix flowing under that screed changes? If it increases or decreases, that screed's going to react, right? It's going to do something. It's either going to go up on me if I get too much mix coming back, or if I don't have enough mix there, it's going to kind of drop. So just a little, just going into the background, just a tiny bit on that theory, if you will, that free floating screen. Again, it's the same, all pavers are the same. You've got a free floating screen on the back. Screening off that mix, connected by that tow arm from the tow point, back to the drop arm, back to the screen. So, again, all the forces acting on that screen, if they stay constant, once at the takeoff and when I continue paving, that screen's going to stay in its same position, called equilibrium. They call it its happy zone. Right? All the forces acting on it are the same, not changing. The screen's going to hold that same thickness, not the same across, as long as those forces stay the same. So it can affect how that screen behaves. All these things, right? Paving speed, head of materials, screen adjustments, the mix, the temperature of the mix, all that. We're not going to get into that. We're going to talk about the machine and what we can control in the field. So that is your paving speed, your head of material, and screen adjustments. So step one, again, doesn't matter what brand of machine you got. These are some tried and true steps if you go through and follow. The first thing I'm going to do, that paver's sitting there on the job, the screen is raised up off the ground. I've got the machine running. I'm going to turn on the screen. Why do I want that screen to heat it up? Cold mix or hot mix sticks to cold steel, right? So I want to get that screen heated up. So I'm going to have that's going to be my step one. And again, everything through these steps up to number 7, the screen is off, up in the air. Okay? So it's still I'm going to heat the screen up so I don't drag mix when I take off. Step 2, the screen's still up in the air. I haven't started yet. I'm going to set my tow points. So that screen again is connected left and right side at the tow point, and it can do what? It can rotate actually through. We took all the hydraulic and electric lines between the tractor and the screen off. That screen can rotate 360 degrees around those tow points. So it can go like this, it can go like this. And that's our angle attack once we get paid. But it's free floating on that mix. We're going to set our tow points so that we get what we call a straight line pull. I don't want to be taken off like this, nose down. I don't want to be taken off like this with a high angle attack, like this with that screen. So I'm going to set the tow points based on my width thickness that I'm going to pave that day. And we've got adjustment there on the left side, right side. We've got a tow point scale. Maybe the scale isn't there on the paper now. Sometimes they could have ordered it worn off or covered in asphalt, things like that. But the whole goal here is set that tow point based on mat thickness to get a straight line of hole. Just be careful because different screeds, different pavers are different. 0 on your Toe point scale doesn't necessarily mean that's where I set it to get a straight line pull. This slide here kind of shows you in the bottom left, you got the red dot, that's your toe point there, and that yellow drop arm goes back, the toe arm, drop arm, and the red dot back there, that's where it's connected again into that screed. I'm looking to get that straight line pull between those two red dots, those two pin connections. So we'll have that set up. You can see in the picture up there, it's got this string going between that toe point and that pivot point back at the screen. That's going to be the straight line pull. Pivot point and the toe point, or the pivot point and the toe point. So if you really want to know where your screen is at, or your scale, you can set that screen on the ground in here in the shop. Take the cover plate off the back and find where your pivot point is back at the screen. Measure that distance from the ground to your pivot point at the screen, and then run your toe up and down up here until it's that same distance. Now I know that's my quote zero mark or my straight line pull. Right? Does that make sense? So now if I'm going to pave 2 inches thick, for example, what do I want to do with my toe point? Here on level ground, right? Flat ground. I've got the same measurement, straight line pull. Now I'm going to pave 2 inches thick, so that screen's going to be up 2 inches. So what do I need to do with my toe point? I need to bring it up, set it at 2, so that I get a straight line. Makes sense. And again, I already said this, but they're different on different machines, so you may have to set your machine down and just measure, find out where that 0 point actually is, that straight line pull, and then you'll know from that point on, mark it somehow. So step 1, get the screen. Step 2, set your toe points. Step 3, screen's still up in the air. I'm going to set my paving width based on my job specs, right? How wide am I paving? I'm paving 12 feet wide, 14, 17 feet. Whenever possible, a good idea to set equal extension width on both sides. And why? That way I'm getting equal forces acting on that screed as I pave forward, right? So it's not always possible. Sometimes I have a shoulder break, right? Paving a 12-foot main, maybe a 5-foot shoulder with another 2% on it. In that case, I'm not going to have equal width on both sides. As much as I can, equal width on both sides. Sometimes I'll see crews that's paving a 14 foot, something like that, straight across, nothing on the side. Ideally, it'd be nice to have 2 feet and 2 feet. Right? So set your paving width, step 3, step 4, main screed crown. So in the very center of that screed, the main screed, 8 or 10 feet wide, it's flat all the way across, but we do have some crown that we can put in. What that is literally bending that screen a little bit in the center. So if I'm talking, I'm just giving an example. So if I had 2% crown, I'd have 2% going each way from center on that screen. Right? If it's 0, it's flat. It's no crown. So you're going to set that again based on your job specs. Trying to accomplish. So the screen's still up in the air. Step 5, I'm going to set my extension height. So left side, right side, I've got my extensions that go in and out. You've got a height adjustment on those. Press the button on the screen, it'll raise it or lower it or lower it. We recommend, and some screens might be just slightly different, at a 1/4 inch above 0 for a rear mount screen. So rear mount meaning I've got my main screen and my extensions are behind the main screen. Whereas the front mount screen, those extensions are in front of the main screen. And we'll show a little bit more on that in a minute. But a 1/4 inch above 0 for rear mount, 1/4 inch below for front mount. And what that's actually effectively doing is setting that angle of attack that screen's going to ride at. So I think of the screen a couple ways. Any water skiers in the room? Do water skiing, you gotta help a little bit the nose up attitude, right? So the water gets in and supports you as you're skiing along, or think about it like an airplane wing, right? Just air, get under there and floating. I think of the screen the same way. It's got a little bit, that's that 1/4 inch angle of attack on the pavement. Allow that mix to come underneath and free flow. If I'm perfectly flat, I'm a bulldozer. If I'm nose down, I'm a dozer with the blade down or a grader, right? And have a open texture. The screen's not even that nice, wear up, wear. So a 1/4 inch up for rear mount, down for front mount. So when the screen is lowered into place, that's a rear mount screen in this image, so the extension being the farthest to the back. But when I set that down to take off from my 4-foot board on the bottom there, it's sitting at a 1/4 inch. Again, that's my 1/4 inch angle. I go out on job sites, I don't know the crew, I show up, I've never seen a pay before, I can help you today. And learn stuff as I learn every day. So, but one of the first things I look at is are the screen plates before they even set down. I can tell if that screen's been running at 1 inch angle tag or 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch, because it's not using the full screen plate to support that 9,000 whatever pounds of screen. So it's all worn out on the back, nice and shiny, right? You can shave it with it, get a little shiny in the front, the rusty, mixed people. So again, just a lot you can tell just by looking at the screen plates and seeing the 1/4 inch in that case. So that was step 5, set your extender height. But it's a critical step because again, it's effective in setting your angle tag. Step 6, you can set the slope on the extensions. Extensions go in and out. So when we're talking about the slope on the extension, my body's the main screen, here's my left side, my right side. I can put slope in that extension, right? So I got my main screen and I can do an additional slope with that extension. Again, if it's at 0, that's just flat in line with the main screen, whatever the job specs are. Step 7, now we're getting close to set down. So this all happens pretty quick, right? So am I going to use boards to set that screen on, or am I going to build a pad? It doesn't matter, either way it's fine. You just have to remember what. So when I set that screen down, after I get going, I'm going to roll it and pack it. So I got to be about 1/4 inch per inch. So my total mount thing was higher than what it was going to be after compact. Does that make sense? So if I want 2 inches when I'm done, after rolling, I need to put those boards or that pad 2.5 inches. So once it rolls down to 2 inches. So I'm going to get boards or build a pad. There's guys that build a pad in this case in the parking lot. Instead of using boards, they'll just shovel the weights and things in there and set a screen on that. But again, the boards need to be 3 to 4 feet long. Go all the way from the base, leading edge of that screen over behind that trail edge. And that's key when you get those boards. Again, 3 to 4 feet long. Before I actually float the screen or set it down onto those boards, I just want to make sure that my pin gauge, that hopefully I'm running the pin gauge down while I'm paving. When I go to set the screen down, I just want to make sure they're raised up so I don't set all that weight of that screen on those end gates. I'm not designed to carry all that weight for one thing, and it'll affect. Maybe you could actually be holding up the screen a little bit, so it's not really true. That maybe it's raised up. Have my boards underneath. And there's on the left side, there's my 4-foot long board. As you can see, it goes all the way from the nose of the front of the screen all the way behind that trailing edge. What I don't want is, what you see on the right, see that little short board there? So if I put that thing underneath the screen, does that look like very good support? Yeah. I used to be the guy that would form and say, hey, Todd, go in the ditch and find me a couple of rocks or bricks or garbage or whatever you can find that I can set a screen on. And most times it was, try to get a couple of things both the same size. But what's going to happen if you set that screen down, the next thing we do is we all go relax that screen, take all the twist and tension out of it. And then we fill it out and take it off. Really good chance, if I'm not fully supported, that screen's going to always roll over on me and I'm going to get back. Now I'll go hammer on that. It's very important. Get those folding boards. Okay, so finally now, paver operator. Any paver operators? There we go. What do they call it? Ivory tower. There we go. So now we're going to put the screen flow, right? So what's that do? Lets off all the pressure on the lift cylinders. It's going to drop that screen down onto those boards, onto that pad. And now we're going to float. I'm going to, a little step is very important again. I'm going to float onto the boards, and now I'm just going to inch that machine forward until I take out the slack at the toe point. So that pin connection with the red arrows, there's a slot there about 2 inches long. And if that pin is in the middle of that slot, not tight up against the front of it, again, you can null out and still get kind of that takeoff. So float on the boards and just inch the machine forward until that pin is tight against the front of that slot, so it just gets squeezed right just an inch or two. Now I'm going to null it out. So knowing, what's that do? That screen's got twist and torque and tension and all kinds of things in it, so I want it to do its best job. It needs to be totally relaxed. It's going to make the world smooth, flat, and black, right? Keep floating. Use my depth screws on the left side and go to the right side, do the same thing until they don't feel any tension. It's loose. The key here is, this is one of my little pet peeves. I'll get on jobs and you got guys on the left side and the right side both trying to define null, right? And maybe 8 or 9 times out of 10 it works, right? You feel loose over here, tension over here, but you can't get a false null. You just both hit the sweet spot at the same time, maybe it feels like there's some tension. So I really recommend you do the left or right side first, and then go and do the other side. Once you feel no tension on both sides, go back to the first side, just go to, just till it starts to get tight. You don't want to put cranks in. Just gets tight. Same thing on the opposite side now, until it just gets tight. So what we've done is totally relax the screen. And now we've just gone to tension. So the screen should hold where it's at now once we fill it.
You're saying to tighten it up, or you're going up, right?
Yes, good point. Yeah, exactly. Good. So we got so when you tighten it up, you're going in the direction of increase until you just feel tension. Thank you. So this little animation is going to go through, so it's a little painfully slow, but if you just follow along, we'll talk here as it's going. What it's doing now is we're getting to the point where we're going to roll that screen out, but this is where that step 5, remember that was setting a 1/4 inch above 0 or below. So this is a rear mount screen. Step 5, I'm going up 1/4 inch. See my extension there? Just went up 1/4 inch. Now, step 7, I'm going to float the screen onto my 4-foot boards there. Onto the boards, so you see where that rear extension is. I'm taking the slack out of the toe point, just inch the machine forward. But that extension is 1/4 inch high, right? Sitting, now I know, what did that screen just do? Block back how much? 1/4 inch, right? Because I set it at a 1/4 inch instead of 5. Now I'm going to fill up with mids and take it off. So it just went to tension. And good to go. So I'm just going to show a couple other little things on this animation. These are just other things that I commonly see. So I'm going to go through kind of the same thing here to start with. Screen's level, or it could be anywhere. But I'm going to set that extension height again at 1/4 inch above 0. The front mount and below 0. You can float the screen onto my boards. So as you can see, it's the floating here. It's fully supported. Still a 1/4 inch extension off there. I'm going to inch it forward until I pick up the slack. Now I'm going to null out again, left side and right side. Screen rocks back again, how far? 1/4 inch, right? So life is pretty good. I do just put attention, fill out, take off. But what's going to happen here? Buddy on the back is going, oh my God, and his dad before him told me to put 3 or 4 cranks into it, right? So what's my angle now? I know we're in Vegas, so we can roll the dice, right? But that's what we're doing, because you don't really know. Right? You put a couple cranks, you put 2, you put 3, he put 4, I put 2. But that, being facetious, that's where you can run into trouble. More of a quarter inch, you know that much. And I'm going to take off and the sweet spot going to drop with this and that. Rear edge is going to cut it with that. That's what I'm sitting there, right? Smoking the heater because I'm ready to start cranking because I don't know which way it's going to go and get going. The last little one here, they just totally said screw it, skip step 5, didn't set it under quarter inch at all. No, still do that part. But if we take off like this now, what's our angle? 0, right? We got no angle attack in there. What's that mat texture going to look like? Chip. Yeah. It's going to be open, right? It's going to drag all that. Hey, it's not my first video, so I set it down. There we go. Crank, right? What's that screen probably going to do when I take off? Right? And I'm going to go, oh crap, I'm going to cut the feet off, crank it down, it's going to do this, right? There's no weed out. Anyhow, thing to think about, setting that angle attack. But again, you're really doing it on step 5. You set that extension, and if you, whatever you take off initially at, you can't change it. So that screen's always going to resume that original angle attack that I take off at. So if I took off at 3/4 of an inch, and I get 300 feet, and all crap, and then get the right angle. The only way I can truly get it back to, say, 1/4 inch is to pick the screw up, set it back. Yes, sir.
What would you want to actually be?
So the question was, what would you want that match height to be on the front mount screen? So it would be the same 1/4 inch under height scale, but down instead of up. So that animation shows your rear extender. It'd be the opposite, so on the front mount, so it would have been fun. Raised it up and we did that, so it would have sat down on the main screw and all the pull back to the 1/4 inch. It's just because of the relationship with this actually still being. Good question. And step 5, now I'm going to put band-aids down because to get a good longitudinal joint or match that next pass, I want a good square edge, right? I mean, especially for our highway or jobs doing bits and specs, all that. I've heard 100 reasons why I can't put band-aids down, full necks in there, all that. But keeping those springs clean so that I can put those end gates down and I'll get a good square vertical edge to match up. Come back, hit that. And I'm going to get better density on that joint. All that good stuff. So that's step 9. There we go, a couple of inches on the left. You see the end gate up. The mix kind of fluffs out. Yeah, actually that mix is pretty stable, but a lot of times it'll be about 45 degrees, right, under that, coming out under that end gate. Does that mix ever get compacted or rolled? No, not really, right? So if I can run that end gate down and get it on the right-hand side there, again, I get that good square edge, the augers are going to push that mix tight against that joint. And when I come back to roll it, I'm going to get a pretty good density on that joint, or at least the best that I can get. Important to have. Step 10, I'm going to set my auger height. So I haven't put any mix in here. Ideally, the bottom of that auger plate about 2 inches above the mat surface. So you got a scale, maybe on the back of your paper, shows where your auger height is. And on papers, I still don't know what the actual number means, so I measure it one time, and I mark it off with a sharpie or something, 2 inch pad, 3 inch. But here you got a tape measure, measuring down. So the way I think about it, most pavers have a 8-inch auger from the center to the outside, so feet a hammer. 8 inches plus 2 inches is 10. So if I just think 10 inches plus my mat thickness from the grade this side of the auger shaft. So that's my 2-inch mat, and that puts my auger, bottom of my auger 2 inches above the mat. And that's just a recommended starting point. You're probably going to tweak it up or down just a little bit once you get going with the mat texture. But the big thing here is you don't want it all the way up. Why? Carrying some big head material or amount mix in there that they don't really need, and probably going to get segregation, stuff like that. Or, in some ways more critical, I don't want that auger below, lower my actual mat thickness. So I'm going to start at this screw. And what we're going to do, we're going to be fighting all day long because it's holding that screw up and mix. So if there isn't enough mix and the augers are starving that screw, it's going to want to keep going down and then we plan to fight this. Good starting point. All right. Step 11, I'm going to aim my feed sensors. How many of y'all are using sonic feed sensors? Sonic eye, yeah. That's mostly what I see. You still have the contact sensors or the paddle, metal, quarter-inch steel rod with a little paddle on the end that rests on the mix and over 45 degrees. Does the same thing. So they're using sonic paddle sensors. But getting these sonic ones aimed correctly is important because you want to hit what we call the live moving material. So that mix is constantly moving. I don't want to point it straight down. I mean, sometimes I'm so tight, I don't have a choice of how to do that. But most times, if I got more than about 1.5 extension out, I can aim that sonic feed sensor about 18 inches away from the mix and hit, again, that live moving material, if you will, looking down. And what that will do is, because that material is constantly moving, I adjusted on my screen, my mix height dial. I'm going to get the head of material where I want it, and I'm going to get continuous auger. And that's critical to minimizing segregation, getting good temperatures, uniform temperatures with the mix as it gets transferred out across the width of the screen. If I get out there and you see your augers turn and stop, on off, right? 99% of the time it's just re-aiming that feed sensor. That's why they got that big wing out there, just to make it nice and easy. Do it as you're paving. Just kind of keep moving, watch the auger, and you get to that point where the auger's just turning continuous. Tighten it up, and you're good to go. With the sonics or sound waves, send the sound wave to the mix, that sound wave rebounds back to the sensor. So we are aiming at that live moving material. It's important as much as you can to aim it at 90 degrees or perpendicular. You'll get the best reading, be the most consistent, work the best with your mix height dial on the screen. Because what's that mix height dial? As I turn it, it's just adjusting the distance that the sensor's looking for. So when I turn it up, it's actually shortening the distance, which gives me what? More mix. I turn that dial, mix height dial on the screen, and I turn it down, it's actually extending that window or that length, the distance it's looking for. And my pile mix decreases. So that's how the mix height level works with that sonic sensor. So the more perpendicular it is, the better it's going to work. Step 12, set my feeder controls. So my conveyors and my augers. So again, recommended starting point. We've done all this setup to this point. Recommended starting point, 40%. So on this way it's digital, so it functions 40%. You can turn the dials on the paper operator station up top. Some machines you can do at the top or bottom on the screen. But we're going to set those at about 40%. Or if you got the dials, about 10 o'clock on the dial for your conveyors. And your augers at about 60. And then your augers are going to set at 60%. That's your mix height dial. So again, starting point. We might tweak those. Now we're going to manually fill the auger chamber with mix. What do we like to do? Right? Yeah. So everybody's complaining when we made our later version of paper because you couldn't get 4 fingers wide enough to hit the 2 conveyors and 2 augers at the same time to fill out. We kind of did that on purpose because we were trying to encourage people to convey the material back, auger it out, convey it back, auger it out, To get that mix filled up in the auger chamber at what we call a half auger height. So I still won't be able to see my augers once I get it filled up, ready to take it off. So manually filling it up, conveyor auger, conveyor auger. What do those conveyor chains do from the hopper? They just run in a loop, right? Just bring mix back, run the tractor, back into the hopper. So if I just jam it, it'll bring more mix back, and those augers can move to the left and right side. So where's the rest of that mix go? Underneath, up in front of my tractor, under the tracks and bogies and wheels, right? Now I got all that mix under there, so I take off nice, and I get about 10 feet, and I got this big pile of mix, and that's what speed does this. So manually filling it up, want the mix all the way up, half auger height, get material all the way across, but I don't want to be dragging mix underneath the tractor. That's the So do all that, and I put it in auto, so what's that do? That just engages that sonic feed sensor, so that when I take off, it'll automatically feed mix. That's when you take off, and the screen, the yellow paper operator, right? Got your autos on? Screen operator's on. Out. Or paper operator's going out. I got one. This is trying to finger feel the buttons without looking, right? Sometimes you forget. I do. So we take off, just make sure the feed system's in auto. Now is when we're going to set up our automatic rate and slope. So if you're running automatics, a ski, or the single rate control sensors, slope control, this is the time we want to set that up. What I started doing, I want to plug it in before I power the machine on. Now is when I'm actually going to bench it or survey it and all that stuff. Because if I do it before I fill up the mix, it's going to change. So just leave this to the end. Do all the other stuff. Then I can position that rate control sensor where I want it, joint match back at the auger, or exact yield, exactly 2 inches on existing. I put it back there. I can move that sensor up toward the toe point, get better smoothness, but not as good a joint match, but it's going to smooth things out. So where I position that grade sensor will determine how quickly that screen reacts. That's a whole Step 15, okay, feed system's not on, I'm in gauge mode, not road heater or travel, just checking everything mentally here, taking a breathing flow, throttle her up, set my speed dial, so my paver speed, 35 feet a minute or whatever, I can set it before I take off. Some pavers, you have the speed dial, right? So it depends on what make and model you have. On this one, okay, I can set the speed before I take off. The key here is when I do take off, full propel. So we did all these steps, right? We got the half auger, head material, everything, we're good to go. I want to go full stroke when I take off. Why do we not want to just go? We'll just start slow and then speed up. As soon as I leave neutral, what's the feed system? Kicks in, right? So I just set up, I got nice head material in there before I even started. Now if I go real slow, just feather that thing, feed system kicks in, brings more mix back before it actually gets moving. Right? So just quick starts, not like the old days where if you did that, you throw the guys in the back of the screen and the map. You start up pretty smooth and quick now. So full stroke, and the same thing will happen between trucks or when I gotta stop. Just back to neutral, I don't want to go slow, because that will affect my head of material. As soon as my head of material changes, what's my screen do? It's going to do something. So there you go, there's your speed dial. So like I say, some of them, a lot of machines have a dial. If I have the dial, I can't set it at 35 feet a minute before I take off, because I don't know where 35 is. So what do I do? Turn the speed dial right to 0. I go full propel, the machine's not going to move because the speed dial's at 0. And turn that speed dial until I get my feet per minute. And then from that point on, I'll just go to neutral, full stroke, back to neutral, as I need to make the steps and stops. Pull out the starting boards. As soon as I start, it's the first thing I want to look at. Screen operator, I want to make sure they're paper operator, I want to make sure the feed system's in auto, and guidance coming back. So I'm going to check that. As soon as I know that, I'm going to look at my Mixed feed, like I say in this picture, you can see the left side's got a reversing auger to move that mix under the chain case there. I'm going to adjust my feed sensors if I need to, and my conveyors, bring a mix back to get that auger speed in 20 to 40 RPMs. So that's about 1,000 to 1,000 as it's rotating. 2 seconds per revolution is 30 RPMs. But that's in that ballpark, 20 to 40. My augers go too fast and get one. So I throw the mix out to where the most critical point, which is the longitude. So that's once we take off, get your feed system tweaked if you need to. You got my auger speed now, because if I turn my conveyors up and bring more mix back, what's it do to my augers? It slows them down, right? If I turn my conveyors down, I bring less mix back. Now what's the auger got to do to make that feed sensor up here happen? The auger's got to go faster, right? So it's my conveyor dials that are actually adjusting, if you will, my augers. More mix, I think of a big shovel, right? I take a big shovel full, I only have to do 5 of them. I'm taking like a half shovel, I got to do 10 of them at the same time. So I turn the conveyor down, this mix, auger's got to work harder, it goes faster. More mix back at the conveyor, auger doesn't have to work as hard, it slows it down. Get into 2040, look at my map, looks beautiful, get it back at the sandwich, and keep paying. If I get lines in my map, these are longitudinal, this is mostly, you'll see, this common thing, are batch height lines. So here, I just follow that line and see where it lines up with the screen. And that picture lines up with the inside of the extension, so it's inside the width of the main screen. That tells me that the extension is lower than the main screen. What do I do to get rid of it? It takes about 3, 4, or 5 seconds maybe. Hold the batch height button, raise that screen up until I look right down at the feet. As soon as that line goes away, take my hand off. Good. And opposite here, I'm following that line. It's in line with the edge of the main screen. It tells me my extension is higher than the main screen, so I go down and force that extension to match up. Until that line, as soon as it disappears, take my hand off the button. Life is good. So if I'm getting that, that's kind of just telling me maybe my scales, 1/4 inch and all that. The scales get out of adjustment, and we take it into the shop and put it down. Sometimes I forget, maybe just don't know, and don't reset those scales. Right? Just read checks and adjust it. And that's it. Here we go to the back of the mat. Kind of like a raker that's doing his job, is not doing anything, right? Because we have to broadcast that same thing. Once you get that street dialed in, got the feed system going good, it should be pretty straightforward. At least on the highway. I always joke highway payments is parking lots. Straight away. But paid by the numbers, they're just in the grade sensors or sonic sensors if you're using rate control, automatic. And a couple of real quick things, there's some guys here leave spring line and take off in automatic, so they're right from the get-go, they got their string nailed down and pull it out a little bit just for the first little bit, another rate control sensor, follow that spring line, also gets a student bag. So there's different things you can do. Some guys will take off in automatic with the ski on. When you do that, you just take it off, and that last sensor gets to the joint, pick it off for a few seconds, put it back in automatic. It's going to re-batch itself and continue on. So, a lot of little nuances to take it off. But at the end of the day, it's consistency. That's going through these steps, or at least checking, right? Once you're set up, you come back, do another poll. Should I really have to adjust all this stuff? Yeah, probably not. But should I at least mentally just like, hey, we didn't change the crown on that last line and all that. So that's teamwork, consistency, and that's what they call paving by the numbers. So prep the joint, follow it. I always say all the costume, right? There's nothing here for the costume. It's like putting your seatbelt on, right? I'm an old fire, so before seatbelt on, I just get insert, right? Oh crap, I forgot to put my seatbelt on. Now I don't even think about it, right? Get in there and just quick and go. kind of the same as this. Once you get in the rhythm of it, you just do it like clockwork. So. But that's all I have. So I'll be up here if you have any questions after. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.